I'm honored to welcome my guest, who is a mindfulness expert, author, and host of the popular podcast New Mindset Who Dis. And he's got a new book coming out with Hay House soon called The Opposite of Settling. His practical insights into self awareness and positivity have resonated with millions around the world. Everyone, please welcome Case Kenny to the call. Hey,
Hello.
Case, how you doing?
I'm amazing. And that was amazing. That was
Oh,
so great. Thank you for blessing us with that.
amazing. Oh, so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we can combine our skills here. This will be fun.
I was buzzing when I found out that you were going to be on this because I've followed you for a while,
No.
a real while. And yeah, so if people might not know, like you're doing so much amazing things, but you're super famous for these white notes with the red writing, and they are, yes, I was so excited because I actually have seen so many friends who are not even involved in spirituality or wellness sharing these quotes. And if for people who might not know, you need to follow Case online. There's over 1.3 million followers who come for your everyday practical insight into relationships. And there's this one that really stood out for me. It says, "May you attract someone who puts their phone down when you're talking, even if it's not important." So they're
Mhm.
super relatable and fun quotes. Like, I want to know, where do they come from? How do you receive these pieces of insight and advice?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and I think my mission is a mix of mindfulness and creativity. Like I have found so much power in writing these things down and touching it and feeling it. I think, a lot of my quotes simply come from the desire to spread a bit more optimism. Certainly, the internet is abuzz with people talking about red flags and things that hurt and frustration, and we need to speak to these things, of course. I have found a lot of power in my life, especially when it comes to exactly what you were talking about, the ability to put our finger on the feeling that we want to feel with the miracles in our lives, to speak to the goodness, reminders of what we deserve, reminders of what our hard work will bring into our lives. And that's what I choose to do. So a little quote like that, just reminding us of the type of relationship we deserve, or reminding us of the goodness that will be in our next chapter because of what we bring to the table. That is what inspires me. And I think when that's my mission, I never run out of things to talk about. It's to your point, it's a gift to see people share them, because I think that's we're desperate nowadays for reminders of goodness.
We
We're kind of
are.
over the head with negativity, and there's certainly a place to look negativity in the eye and to sit in it and to surrender to some of the things that are bad in life. But I think there's a lot of room to be reminded of what we deserve, the type of people who do exist, friends, partners, business colleagues, and that's what I like to share. And I particularly like writing in a red pen as well
Yeah, I
to
love the red
make it
pen
pop.
thing.
Yeah.
I want to know though, do they just come to you? Or are you just like receiving them throughout the day, or do they come as a download? Like, how does that come through? Because it feels like God talking to me half the
Wow.
time.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, I think it comes from a couple of things. I mean, creatively, I spend a lot of time in stillness trying to remind myself of my initial vision of love, for instance.
Mm,
Before some of my former relationships, before the internet reminded me of all the frustrating dating experiences that do happen, to sit in that space and remind myself of that initial vision I had of love. I really like to write in reaction to things that other people are saying online, things that I've heard. And that allows for me to put a space between perhaps the negativity and the hope. So, I could react to a quote of someone writing something about, their partner was a liar. And I could sit there and I could feel the heaviness of that emotion. And I would ask myself, well, what would the opposite of that be? What can we remind ourselves of the vision of love that could come from that? And then the rest is just creative writing. I think, as you have your genius and your skill, I have
mm.
mine, which is the ability to sit down and put some music on and some coffee and to just and to just write and let it and it just comes out of me. So where it comes from, I'm not so sure. It's inspiration. It's my divine talent. But yeah, it feels so clarifying when I do, and then affirming when other people say, yes, this is how I want to describe my partner or my life or myself. It's such a gift to receive that.
Yeah, amazing. I do love the kind of practical relationship advice that comes through them. And I've sent my partner so many of
Oh,
your quotes. So this feels
thank you.
cool.
Thank you.
I'd love to change topics a little bit because you have this upcoming book, The Opposite of Settling,
Yeah.
coming out. And I'd love to know, what does the opposite of settling, can't get that out of my mouth for some reason, mean to you?
Yeah, for sure. So it's called the opposite of settling in the sense of nowadays there seems to be this weight, this heaviness, this assumption that inevitably you're settling in some sense, whether that's
Mm.
you're asking for too much in a partner, so relax and chill out and just take what you can get, or inevitably, even if you find a healthy partner, eventually you're going to lose an aspect of yourself. You're going to become a little more boring, you're going to lose some of your spark and your pizzazz. And even if we don't always say that overtly, subconsciously, I've seen this belief time and time again in in people's pursuit of finding their lifelong partner. And I wrote the book from the perspective of helping us speak to ourselves by defining what the opposite of that would look like. What would it look like if you found a partner who helps you become more of yourself? And that's the key topic because this assumption that you get in a relationship and you slowly lose your spark, yourself, your pop, your pizzazz, your belief in miracles, for instance. The right partner should amplify that. It should amplify the joy that you've already created for yourself. It should make you feel like more of yourself, not less. And that's why, like, even like, I'm not a big fan of the term settle down, even though, when you find a
Oh,
partner, you
yeah.
settle down in the sense of you're not dating and there is loyalty and family building and responsibility. But even that word down, I think that's part of the symptom of what we assume love inevitably brings into our lives. Love should be more. I call it settling up, the opposite of settling down. So really, I just wrote the book from the perspective of pure optimism, helping people remember all the goodness that they've worked for in their lives, all the things that they bring to the table, and a reminder that the lens that we should look at relationships through is does my partner amplify that? Do they make me feel like more of myself? That spark, that thing about me, is it still present in this relationship and is it amplified? And yeah, it really aligns with my work on mindfulness and optimism and writing down. And it's this rush of energy of settling up, a reminder, putting words to these things that, yeah, when we were in our early 20s, maybe we remembered, but then we lose sight of it. So to bring it back and to help people feel optimized and optimistic, I think that was the mission. So I'm excited for it.
I love it. This was a conversation that my friends and I were having just recently because I think even from friends, not just personal relationships as in romance, but from friends as well, there's sometimes a tendency of not, I've found other people not wanting you to do well. And I actually had to call out a friend
Mhm.
recently, like, hey, I need you to be cheering me on all the time, and I will do exactly the same for you. Like, if you don't want me to grow, then you don't want you to grow. It's a big thing.
It's a huge thing. I mean, the people in your life should feel joy when you feel joy. They should be happy for your happiness. I mean, that's fundamental to friendships, to partnerships. It's that level of support that I think we're missing. So that like that kind of reminder, that kind of standard, I think is so, so important.
It's so important. So I'm a big fan of writing and journaling and just putting down prayers.
Mhm.
How does that practice show up for you? Do you actually write your journal in a red pen? Is that
Oh yeah.
happening? Oh, you
Every
do?
everything I write, everything I write is handwritten, and then I choose the color red because it pops and it stands out. And I think that's the subtext, right? We're lost sometimes in the noise of our own overthinking. We're lost in the noise of other people's expectations. I want to stand out with my thoughts to myself and remind myself of these things. And yeah, I mean, handwriting is a big deal for me, not only given the neuroscience behind the mind and body connection, but
Mm.
just the intention behind sitting down and writing left to right and choosing your words carefully. Perhaps something we don't always do when we're in our heads. right? We revert to the common words, the obvious words, the words that we've been conditioned to say to describe our feelings. I call journaling, or really any handwritten reflection, I call it intentional thinking, which is kind of just a witty way to describe what we don't always do. Because a lot of
Mm,
our thinking is we're just receiving thoughts that aren't our own. When you sit down to write, you're finally freezing it. You're giving yourself the opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to choose my words carefully here. I'm going to choose words that honor how I feel, but set me free to believe in miracles, for instance. So yeah,
mm.
it's my obsession creatively, and it's very fulfilling personally, and it's completely changed my life many times over.
I have this one friend that is a professional martial artist, and because I'm really into fighting, that's one of my hobbies. And
Cool.
he came up to me in the gym and he's like, I really want your help with something. And I actually didn't really know the answer, but he's like, I've had a gratitude journal for all these years, but I've just got to this point where I'm writing the same thing down
Oh,
every
yeah.
single day. And I was like, oh, wow. Like what would you say to someone who's maybe trying to get into that gratitude mindset and they want to write down things every day, but they're just like family, car,
Yes.
lunch, like
Yeah.
what would you say to that?
Oh, it's such a good point because honestly, that's where my whole journey 7 years ago into journaling started. Because I was like, I want to be a journaler. I want to be someone who gets value from this thing that so many people are talking about. And my experience was the same. I would sit down, I'd be like, okay, everyone says to practice gratitude journaling.
Yeah.
And I would find myself just ripping through a list. I'm grateful for my health, my family, et cetera. And I didn't feel it. Like
Right.
gratitude, you referenced it earlier, the feeling of gratitude, it is a mind and body experience. Like when you truly embody yourself in gratitude, you feel it. It's not just something
Hmm.
you write and you move on. So I'm actually in a little bit, I think I'm going to take some people through some prompts. And I think a key point of gratitude specifically is to bring something from the past into the present, namely something painful or frustrating that you've healed from, that you've evolved through, and ground yourself in no longer having that feeling. It's like time travel. You look back to feel present and grateful in the present. That is true gratitude. Now I'll show what that looks like in a little bit, but yeah, I think to answer your question simply, it's to think in the contrast of your life. Like the contrast is where the clarity lives. So it's not just listing the obvious things, it's really sitting in the muck, in the past, and the frustration and the anxiety. That's where you find the breakthrough. So I always encourage people to pause. Don't go to the obvious answer, and go to the pain, go to the hurt, go to the frustration. That's where you're going to find the gratitude, not only in the things that feel light and grateful, but in the things perhaps that you haven't always been grateful for. That's where you find gratitude. And I'll bring that to life in a little bit.
Right. Because I was saying earlier on, like, when bad things happen in our life and
Yep.
challenges happen, most people will look back and say, I don't want to change that because that actually helped me become
Yeah.
who I became. It's huge.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited. Well, I'll get out the way and let you take over. I know you're about to take us on a little journey into mindset. So I'll
Oh,
step back and let you lead the way if that's all right.
it's quite all right. Thank you for handing me the reins. It's a privilege I don't
Enjoy.
take lightly. So thank you. I
Over to
appreciate
you.
that. So yeah, so we're going to do this for 30 minutes. I call these sessions mantra, right? So we just talked a little bit about how I have this passion for writing short affirmations of worth and reminders. So for this, I'm going to take you through a little bit of thinking about the power of language, the power of emotional vocabulary. I'm assuming that most everyone here has a pen and paper in front of them. That's great. If you don't, maybe try to grab it. If you don't have access to it, that's okay. I just want you to have somewhere where you could write something down on your computer phone, just so you have a reminder of the clarity that perhaps you can create for yourself in this session. So I'm going to talk for a little bit first, for maybe about 8 minutes here, and then I'm going to give you some prompts. Very simple prompts focused on the idea of emotional vocabulary. And then we're just going to write, and we're going to do it for about 30 minutes. So I would start with this. I want to start with the idea of mindfulness, right? We're all here more or less because we want to be more mindful, whether that's mindful in the sense of finding clarity in our lives, mindful in the sense of understanding that feeling of the miracle we want to experience. And we can go around the room here and I could say, what does being mindful mean to you? And we'd all have different answers, but more or less, they would probably circle one idea. And I want to take that idea and I want to make it very simple and impactful. For the most part, I think we'd agree that being mindful means an element of listening to yourself, right? When you say, I want to be mindful in my life, it usually means I want to listen to myself. I want to be present. I want to ground myself in this moment with my feet on the floor, and I want to feel how I feel. I want to accept it. I want to surrender to it. I want to be non-judgmental of the many emotions that are floating around in my head. I think that's a great starting point for mindfulness. To be mindful is to listen to yourself. I think we could take this though and really give it some momentum so that it means something actionable. So when I think about mindfulness, I think about listening to ourselves, but perhaps more importantly, I think about talking to ourselves. Talking to ourselves. The words we use to respond to what we feel and what we think when we reflect, right? I'm sure everyone here has a mindful habit, whether it's breath work or meditation or journaling or just sitting and grounding yourself with your feet on the floor. Amazing. You feel a rush of emotion. You feel how you feel. Great. How do you speak to yourself about those things? It's not something that we really spend a lot of time thinking about because what we do is we feel a feeling and we say, I feel anxious, I feel lost, I feel unlovable, I feel behind. Great, great. You put words to a feeling. We're not trying to control it, but you put words behind it. How do we make that a more optimistic thinking? How do we honor a feeling, but give ourselves room to say, this can change? This feeling that is a negative feeling can change. That's through mindful practice and it's through handwriting. So it's the idea of listening to ourselves, but talking to ourselves. And what happens when you talk to yourself in a way that allows for change? Well, to me, it's all about optimism, right? Optimism is perhaps the belief that miracles can and will happen. For me, optimism is the belief that things can change. In this moment, I could have the weight of many heavy emotions, but I believe that they can change, that this emotion is not permanent, that things can change, that my next chapter will be wildly different and abundant. So, mindfulness, listening to yourself, mindfulness, talking to yourself, mindfulness is what allows for you to be optimistic. And generally speaking, I've realized that with the words we use to describe our feelings, and I'm going to give you an example, and then we're going to go through prompts. The way we speak to ourselves puts us in one of four energetic categories when it comes to language. The first is when we don't really think about how we speak to ourselves and we just speak intuitively. A lot of times we put ourselves in the category of life happens to me. TO. Life happens to me. Things happen, randomness happens, things happen to me. I hope everything will work out. Right? So it's a bit of a passive way of speaking to ourselves. Life happens to me. The more we evolve our emotional vocabulary, the more we're allowing ourselves to sit in the feeling, but to give it movement. Then we can say, okay, well, yes, of course, life happens to me. Things happen that are not my choice, but life also happens through me. Life happens to me, but life also happens through me. The idea, of course, that something can happen to me in my life that I did not choose, but I can catalyze it into something empowering. I can turn it into a higher standard, a better belief in myself, a piece of clarity, a new goal, a new ambition. Okay, life happens to me, but life also happens through me. The more you continue to evolve your emotional vocabulary, the more you believe, okay, well, those are all true statements, but I have more power than I think. Life happens by me. I have the ability to reinvent. I have the ability to say, this is my standard, and I'm never sidestepping it again. Active. It's moving from passive, life happens to me, to life happens by me, right? So life happens to me, through me, by me. And then ultimately, I think the energy of vocabulary that we should strive to be at in is life happens for me. And I know we could prove this to ourselves. I know we could all look back at past experiences that were hurtful where we didn't get what we wanted. And now, with retrospect, we could look back and say, I understand why that happened. That happened for me because I deserve better. I deserve different. That thing that didn't result in the result I wanted, it served me in a way that only now I can understand. And with that in mind, perhaps in the present, when we're going through the thing, instead of only looking back, we can say, I believe this is happening for me. I believe that this is fuel for my next miracle. Right? So you can just see the power of language. It totally changes your relationship with things that happen to you. Life happens to me, through me, by me, and for me. So when I think about being mindful, I think about listening to ourselves, talking to ourselves. The words we use to describe our feelings, they shape the way we experience it. Is this feeling permanent, or is this a feeling that will project me to the next level, my next miracle, the next upgrade in my life? So really that's the focus of what we're going to go through in just a minute here with these prompts. I want you to think about the words you use in your life. Truly, there's a lot to be said about expectation and learned vocabulary. When you sit down and you immediately say, "Man, do I feel anxious?" I applaud you for putting a word to a feeling. A lot of people ignore their feelings. They don't even try to put language behind it. They're just like, "Oh, I feel awful." At least if you say, "I feel anxious," amazing. We're progressing. But I would encourage you to think about that word, for instance. When you say, "I feel anxious," is that what you feel? Or do you feel uncertain or confused or disconnected or alone? Now we're really getting somewhere, right? So it's the idea of like trees and forest. A forest word would be anxious. A tree word would be I feel disconnected. Now we can actually identify the word and then allow us to project it forward. The goal with mindful practice, in the way that I see it, that is speaking to ourselves in light of what we feel, the goal is to be able to do the following. It's to be able to say, I feel a certain way, but, and then the reality that is caused as a result of us putting optimism behind the word, right? So it's the difference between saying, I feel overwhelmed. Okay, I feel overwhelmed, but I'm adjusting to change. I feel stuck, but I'm transitioning to the next piece of goodness in my life. Your ability to honor a feeling is essential, listening to ourselves. But what comes next, speaking to yourself, is what will allow that feeling to become the thing that says life happens for me. Right. So, and this is all about word choice. I truly believe this. I'm sure everyone here has a great, robust vocabulary. It's about sitting in that vocabulary and choosing words that aren't so much laden with permanence. It's saying, it's your ability to say, okay, you know what? I feel a little stressed right now, but I'm handling a lot. I'm stuck, but I'm transitioning, right? I'm struggling, but I'm learning. How can we propel that? That is optimism. The ability to say, I'm learning, I'm transitioning, I'm handling a lot right now. That's the belief that things can change. So I would leave it there almost because usually my sessions go for an hour, but I'm going to do this very quickly. And the power behind this, and if there's one thing you take away from this, the next time you speak to yourself about what you feel when you're reflecting, I want you to speak in the following format. Instead of saying, I am anxious, or I feel anxious, or I'm sad, or I'm overwhelmed, true feelings. I want you to say, a part of me feels. A part of me feels sad. A part of me feels anxious. A part of me feels overwhelmed. The idea, of course, there is you're unblending the parts from the whole. You are not an anxious person. You are not an overwhelmed person. You're not a sad person. You're not a stuck person, right? We're not trying to control those feelings, but we're saying a part of me feels that way. You and I consist of many parts. Parts that are from the past that are trying to protect us, but are inadvertently self-sabotaging us. Parts of our head that are massively overthinking, but they're not grounded in reality. We receive a lot of thoughts that are not our own. It's our job to be able to say, that is a part of me, but there's many other parts of me. And I'm going to honor that with the way I speak to myself. So before we get into it, to recap, mindfulness is listening to ourselves. Mindfulness is speaking to ourselves. Optimism is the belief that things can change. The way that we speak to ourselves allows for that to become true. A part of me feels, seriously, I know it's a small thing, but it's totally changed my life. The way that I speak, the way that I think, the way that I write. I am not an anxious person. I'm not an unlovable person. I'm not a stuck person. I'm not a misunderstood person. A part of me feels that way. Okay, now we can work through it. Now we can use that to say life happens for me. So we have 20 minutes left. Grab a pen if you have it. If you don't, maybe you could just write on your computer or your phone. It's okay. Let's go through some prompts. I'm going to give you a prompt. You're going to write. No one's going to be expected to share, of course. This is you. This is your honesty. And then I'm going to give you maybe like 2 minutes to complete each one. I want you to complete the following prompt. I want you to think right now in your life, I want you to think about a negative feeling that you've been feeling frequently, often. right? Something, a heaviness in your life. Maybe it's one of the ones that I referenced earlier. You're feeling anxious or stuck or, guarded or struggling, whatever it may be. And I just want you to write, I feel blank. And I want you to put one adjective in there, that kind of negative adjective that has been present in your life recently. Take about 30 seconds and do that right now. With your pen. I feel, and then write that adjective in that blank, that negative adjective. Let's put a word to it. And we're going to come back to it, but I'll give you 30 seconds to do that. I feel blank. Just one word, just one adjective. I feel blank. Okay. I also want you to write another adjective. I want you to write, I want to feel blank. I want you to think of maybe the opposite of that word, or just the emotional state that you would rather be in right now. Think about adjectives here. I want to feel blank. I want you to write that second adjective there. This is going to be the framing for our exercise together. So take another 30 seconds and write that second word. The first word was I feel blank, negative word. I want to feel blank, positive word, positive adjective. Take a second, just revert to whatever you're thinking about, right? Just doesn't have to be poetry, just one word, adjective, adjective. Take 30 seconds, and then we're going to move on, and you're going to see how these come together. Take another 10 seconds. I feel, negative adjective. I want to feel, positive adjective. Okay. Now, to Kyle's point about gratitude, I want to do a gratitude exercise that perhaps maybe you're familiar with the inspiration for, but I think it's really powerful in the sense of looking to the past to look to the present, looking to the past to understand this idea of life happening for me. So maybe you're familiar with the work of Thich Nhat Hanh, great, amazing peace activist, Vietnamese Buddhist thinker, amazing portfolio of work. He has something that he refers to as a non-toothache. Maybe you've seen this quote. It's basically the idea. I'll tell you what he says. He says that when we have a toothache, we know that not having a toothache is a wonderful thing. Yet when we don't have a toothache, we're still not happy, which is just such a beautiful way to describe the human condition, right? In the sense, in a much simpler way to say, when something hurts us or frustrates us, that's all we could think about. Yet when we've healed from it, when we've moved on, when it no longer has weight in our lives, we're not grateful for that fact because we've just moved on to the next thing in our lives that has weight. So to think about this idea of non-toothache, that is, I want you to think about something in your life from the past 6 months, past year even. I want you to go back in time when something was painful, was hurtful, was causing you anxiety in your life. It could be a toothache because a toothache's horrible. It could be you hurt your ankle and you like couldn't walk for a month. That was draining. It could be a strained relationship in the past that was really taxing emotionally. I want you to put yourself back in that time when that feeling was heaviest. And I want you to complete the following prompt in this sense. The prompt is, I'm grateful to not, and I want you to describe that feeling that you had in the past that you no longer feel the weight of anymore, right? So it could be if I had that ankle problem, I'm grateful to no longer have the pain in my foot. I'm grateful to no longer feel the feeling of losing someone I loved. I'm grateful to not feel like I'm lost in my life. Think back to something that really was heavy, and I want you to immerse yourself in the present by describing your current reality of no longer having that weight. I'm grateful to not. Think back and describe that. And it could be a sentence or just bullet points. I'm grateful to not. Right? So it's the idea of a non-toothache. Be grateful for no longer having a toothache. Be grateful for no longer being sick. Be grateful for no longer having the weight of that breakup on your heart. Take a minute and just write that best you can. Again, it doesn't have to be poetry. Just feel that body and that mind connection of looking back, immersing yourself in that feeling, but you're in the present and you don't feel it as heavy anymore. And find gratitude in that. So take 1 minute right now. I'm grateful to not, and then write a sentence. Okay, take another 30 seconds here. I think there's a lot of power when it comes to mindful practice of looking back to look forward. And we're going to break that down in just a second. But just wanted to start. These are like two calibrating prompts, and then we're going to get into it a little bit more. So let's go to the next prompt just for the sake of time. You can come back to that if you want. I want to talk about what I think, and perhaps Kyle would agree, is the biggest thing that gets in the way of us manifesting, of us believing in miracles, and us accepting goodness that is on its way. We just need to remain patient. What gets in the way of those beliefs? Resentment, self-resentment, self-blame, self-guilt. None of us here are immune from this, of course, because we've all made mistakes. We've all went left when we should have went right. We've all stayed in relationships when we shouldn't. We've all made wrong choices, right? Of course we have. The problem becomes when we no longer trust ourselves to make a right choice. We made a wrong choice, and in our heads, maybe we made multiple wrong choices. Maybe we stuck ourselves in a pattern of our own doing. We're human. It happens. What happens though, if we don't speak to ourselves in a way that honors a feeling but lets us escape it, is we become stuck in it and it becomes resentment and blame and guilt. So we have to find a way to say, I trust myself again. Because think about that word, I trust myself. Think about a mistake in your life that you made. When you made that mistake, whether it was staying in a relationship that you shouldn't have, whether it was quitting your job to take a new job and it turned out that job wasn't right for you, whether it was remaining friends with someone who wasn't a good friend, who didn't share your joy. When you made the decision to do that, you trusted yourself. At the time, you said, this is the right decision. But then it turned out to be the wrong decision. And in the present, you no longer trust yourself to do the same thing because you're worried that you'll do it again. And that's where that resentment comes from. So for this, I just want us to think in the light of resentment and removing it from our path forward by saying, I trust myself to. So that's the prompt. I trust myself to, and fill in that blank. What do you trust yourself to do? I trust myself to blank. Specifically, think in the idea of something that you did before that you've been resistant to doing again. But this time with a rewarding outcome. This time life happens for you. I trust myself to. What do you trust yourself to do? Take a minute, think about that. If you're struggling to think of something, think about a specific mistake you made in the past and tell yourself that you're willing to put yourself in that same exact scenario again. That's how we remove resentment and guilt and blame. We put ourselves in the position to receive a second chance. I trust myself to blank. Take 30 seconds, fill in that blank. I trust myself to blank. Think about the way you can give yourself a second chance at something. It could be very specific or more broadly. I trust myself to blank. Okay, we're going to move a little fast here. We have 10 more minutes. I was listening when Kyle was speaking, and I share the same sentiment when it comes to this idea of manifestation sometimes, right? It's a buzzword. What does it mean? I'm not so sure, to be honest. When I think about manifesting, though, I do think about the idea of the story we tell ourselves and the reality we want to receive. That manifesting is making sure those two things are the same. That's how I think about manifesting. The story we tell ourselves and the reality we want to receive. Right. So let's just say within the context of relationships, this is something I talk about in my upcoming book, is we say, I want a healthy partner. Good. But then we also say, but there's no good men left. But every woman's crazy. Those two things can't be true at the same time if you want to receive the direction or outcome you want in life, right? Just logically speaking, you tell yourself you want a healthy partner, but then you say none are available. You bring a lot to the table, but no one appreciates it. We can't tell ourselves those two things and expect a reality to come true that we want. We have to find a way gracefully to connect those two stories. We could still be frustrated with life, right? We're not toxic positive. We honor our feeling. We're frustrated because no one has understood what I bring to the table. Okay. Okay. Good. But there's still someone out there who will. How can we bring those stories together? So for this, in light of that idea of connecting the thing that you want and you deserve and the reality that you live in, I actually want you to complete the following, right? So our first two prompts was I feel a negative way. I want to feel a positive way. I want you to take another stab at that with the following prompt. It's two prompts. I want you to write, pen out, I am moving past blank and I am moving toward blank. So what are you moving past? You could say, I am moving past feeling that negative way and I am moving toward feeling the positive way. Okay, that's good. But maybe let's think of new words. Can you think of another way to describe those adjectives or states of being or lifestyles? What are you moving past? You are moving past feeling misunderstood. You are moving past accepting bare minimum. You are moving past doubting yourself. You're moving toward trusting yourself. You're moving toward a reality where someone sees everything you bring to the table. I want you to take another stab at those two words, maybe with different words, maybe with longer sentences, more specificness. I am moving past blank. I am moving toward blank. Put some guardrails on the goodness that you're going to create with the language you use to speak to yourself. Take 2 minutes for this because it's a two-part prompt. I am moving past blank, a feeling, a reality, a habit, a standard, and I'm moving toward blank. Put some words behind the goodness that awaits you. Take 2 minutes, minute and a half. Moving past, moving toward. Think about the words you're using intentionally. I had you start by just thinking of two adjectives, the ones that immediately came to mind. Here's an opportunity to maybe make those adjectives a little bit more true, a little bit more specific, a little bit more freeing. Take 30 more seconds. I am moving past, I am moving toward language. Take another 15 seconds. Okay. This is my favorite prompt. I um I have this book that's coming out soon. The subtitle is called How to Get Everything You Want Out of Love and Life Without Losing Your Spark. I want to talk about your spark. This is such an important topic. There is something about each one of us that from the day we were born has existed inside of us. It is our essence. It is the thing that makes us unique and powerful. And life is life, of course, and it will make us doubt that thing. It will make us doubt our pizzazz, our passion, our intensity, our uniqueness. It will try to make us bury it and doubt it. I referenced the work of James Hillman in my book, The Idea of the Soul's Code, that essence inevitably has to come out, that there is an acorn inside of us. When you plant an acorn, it becomes an oak tree. You can't expect an acorn to become a banana tree or a tomato plant, right? That thing has one essence and it needs to come out. That is your spark. And we owe it to ourselves to trust it the best we can, to say, this is the thing that makes me unique. And this is the thing that will attract the right people into my life. This is the thing that will bring the right opportunities my way. I want you to think the best you can of what your spark is, that thing that you're dedicated to, that thing that makes you you, passionate, intense, funny, caring, empathetic. And I want you to think about that being the catalyst, the reason why the following will come true. I want you to hold your pen in your hand and I want you to feel it. I really want you to focus on the mind and body connection. And I want you to hold this thought in your head as you write a prompt. Say this to yourself. Anything I write with this pen will come true. This is our mindset. We're holding our pen. Anything I write with this pen will come true. And now I want you to write the following. It's my turn to blank. It's my turn to blank. Think about the thing that maybe you have felt has eluded you. And I want you to think about your spark. What is it your turn to receive? The thing that you've worked for, the miracle that you believe in. It could be a feeling, to Kyle's point about thinking about the feeling of that miracle. It's my turn to feel blank. It's my turn to receive blank. It's my turn to be blank. Put it in your language, a short sentence. Anything you write with this pen will come true. And so it's my turn to blank. Take 30 seconds for this. We'll do one last prompt. There's power in your pen, words or spells. It's my turn to blank. Put a word behind it, put a phrase behind it. Feel the power of that. Anything you write with this pen will come true because you're honoring how you feel, but you're giving yourself room for things to change, for miracles to happen, for beliefs to come true, for hard work to catch up with you, for the reality you want to live to be the same as the story you tell yourself. It's my turn to blank, period. Give you 15 more seconds just to stay on schedule, and then we'll do one last prompt that kind of brings it together. So in light of this, and usually my sessions are a little bit longer, but I think this is a really good kind of just a surface level of this. But so we started with an emotion, right? We started with a negative feeling you feel. We talked about the way we want to feel. We talked about what you're moving past and what you're moving toward. We talked about your spark as the essence for moving you to your miracle that you deserve. I want you to complete the following prompt. Again, we're kind of just rewriting this in a way that's more empowering. I want you to write the following. It's our last prompt. A part of me feels blank, but I blank. All right. So now we're going back to that initial adjective. A part of me feels. I am not that way, but a part of me feels it. You could write the same word you had earlier. You could write the phrase that you wrote when you said, I'm moving past. You could write it again and revise it again. Great. A part of me feels blank. We're honoring the emotion. We're never trying to control our emotions. We're practicing non-judgmental mindset of it. A part of me feels blank, but I blank. So the first half honors the feeling. The second half sets us free, moves us toward, clarifies that it's my turn to. Put some language behind it. Again, we're all circling the same idea with all these prompts, but we're enhancing and evolving our language from life happens to me and through me and by me and for me. So just think about word choice, emotional vocabulary. Take another 30 seconds for this, and then we'll wrap it up. A part of me feels blank, but I blank. Yes, I like the chat comments here. Thank you for those. A part of me feels, it's a part of you. It's not your whole essence. It's a part of you. But reality, moving forward, your next chapter, the thing you deserve to receive because of all you bring to the table. A part of me feels blank, but I blank. Okay. Well, I'll end my chat there. I hope that was helpful. It was very fast, very quick, but just think about the power of the way you speak to yourself. Life happens for you. how can we use that to show ourselves that things can change for the better, that emotions aren't permanent, and that they certainly don't define our entire essence. So thank you for your time, Kyle. Thank you for graciously bringing me in.
Thank you
I get
so
a
much.
lot. Thank you.
We loved it. We loved having you. The story we tell
Thank
ourselves
you.
and the reality we want to receive.
Yes.
Such gold. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. And we're so excited about the opposite of settling coming out.
Uh,
So
Thank
welcome to
you.
the Hay House family.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. It's a privilege.